Uh, in the book, you also write about an interesting juncture, which I want you to speak about a bit. It's the point where you are offered a job in GE. And given your acumen, it could well have been that had you said yes to Jack Welch on that day, you could have gone on to become the CEO of GE. How do you look back at that point? I mean, would you say that's an important fork in the road for you, or almost a turning point, your choice of Pepsi over GE?
I mean, forget CEO ambitions for the moment. GE was much more a company that I would have been familiar with because of technology and heavy equipment, because I'd been working with Asia Brown Boveri and Motorola, so GE would have been a coming together of the technology and the heavy equipment businesses that I'd been working on. But in coming to PepsiCo, I picked a corporate culture that I fell in love with over an industry that I was comfortable with. In many ways, I picked an institution over an individual, because GE was all about Jack Welch. PepsiCo was about a corporate culture. Everybody I met was youthful. Everybody I met was welcoming. Not that GE was not, but PepsiCo was even more so. And there was a humility and a desire to have somebody like me in the senior levels at PepsiCo that CEO Wayne Calloway so eloquently described to me, that I came for the institution, not for the individual. And I think that made all the difference.
Yeah. Jack Welch was larger than life at that point in time, but the CEO who seemed to have made some impression on you in later years was Steve Jobs. And there is a part in the book where you recount your meeting with him. There are some funny instances about what he says about cutting down the sugar output in PepsiCo, but what did you come away with from having met Steve Jobs?
Steve was one of the many CEOs that I met, and most of the CEOs I met, to be honest with you, impressed me and gave me something to think about. In the case of Steve Jobs, it was about design. I mean, Steve Jobs was clearly one of those iconic founder CEOs who stepped out and came back, and he was as creative and as smart as he ever was. And there he was talking to the new CEO of PepsiCo and telling her how she should radically rethink the company. But he wanted me to put design at the core of everything, because he thought design drew consumers to your products. Design evoked passion for people towards your business and your products and your brands. So he was talking to me about design in ways that I had not been, ever been talked to before. And so if I built a design capability in PepsiCo, hired Mauro Porcini, and then design helped us remake PepsiCo, I would give Steve Jobs a lot of the credit for sort of getting my consciousness going in this whole topic of design. But for Steve Jobs, I wouldn't have bought that design book and given a copy to all my executives and made them really engage with design. So, he got me going. He has his own unique style, which I loved, but he got me going.
We started the discussion by speaking about gender disparity, but there's another theme which runs throughout your book, which is the sacrifices that a woman needs to make as she climbs higher and higher up the rungs of the corporate ladder. This constant pulls and pressures between home and work. When you look back, do you think that you made all the right choices on that front, or do you harbor any regrets today on that front?
There is no right or wrong choices. It's the best choice you make at that time. Something that you think is the right choice one day may turn out to be not the right choice in retrospect. So I've come to believe that there's the choice you make that's right for the time, and then you live with it. I can tell you that I tried to be the best mother I could, the best wife I could, the best daughter I could, but I also have the perfection gene, which says that I'd like to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, daughter-in-law, and the perfect executive, but perfect as defined by me. And, when I was, a child growing up in India, my grandfather used to push perfection to the limit. And he was never satisfied with our work until, he felt it was perfect. I have that perfection gene. So with that perfection gene deeply embedded in me, I would have liked to have been even more perfect at every role that I played in my life. It's not possible because there's only so many hours in a day and you can't do 6 full-time jobs in a limited amount of time. So I did the best I could to make trade-offs, to juggle all these roles. And when you use the word trade-off or when you make trade-offs, along with that comes a little bit of guilt. So I had guilt. Could I have been more present for my kids? Could I have been more present for my parents or in-laws or my husband? Could I have spent even more hours in Pepsico beyond the ridiculous hours I spent? All of these, cause some pangs of guilt, but nothing that's lasting. About 5 years ago, I parked all that guilt on the side and said, I did the best I could. And I'm pretty happy with where I ended up with my husband, who's still married to me, thank God. 2 kids, 2 daughters who are pretty good, thank God. And, a good run at PepsiCo, thank God. And so no regrets now.